the House settlement that deals with NCAA athletics was passed, and that means that it's a new world in college sports when it comes to name, image, and likeness. Essentially, the nuts and bolts of this, and I think a lot of you are familiar with this at this point, but now schools, for the first time ever, are cleared to share revenue with student athletes. And the ruling indicates that the schools can spend a maximum, it's optional, a maximum of just north of $20 million with their student athletes this coming year. And that number is expected to rise annually as revenues rise. It's a percentage, and so that number will go from 20 million, probably just north of 25 million over the course of the next 4 or 5 years. That's a projection. But that's where things stand. Every NIL deal that a student athlete signs that's worth more than $600 has to be reviewed by a clearinghouse that will determine whether or not that is the market value. If they say that's fine, you sign for $100,000 for this or that, then you're good. Collect the money. If they look at a $100,000 deal and go, well, there's only $20,000 worth of value here, you can appeal that once with new information and say, here's why it's worth $100,000, or you can take the 20. But the clearinghouse, which is run by Deloitte, apparently is going to be able to turn these rulings around very, very quickly. Like, within a matter of a couple of days. Now, I probably trust Deloitte to follow through on that far more than I would trust the NCAA, which can't decide if an athlete is eligible to play sports for months at a time. But I'm still skeptical of that because of how many deals are going to be coming through the turnstiles. They've got this Go NIL portal thing that they can pump the deals into that can determine whether or not it's fair. And we'll see as the practice begins. But the thought here is that, okay, we've got players that are making significant money from the schools, and that's capped like an NFL team salary cap. And then you are free to go sign endorsement deals based on your social media standing or celebrity in the town that you're in for a business if the market indicates that that is adequate. No problem with Jaden Daniels winning the Heisman Trophy, walking across the stage with a big bucket of canes and getting a ton of money for it. You win the Heisman Trophy, you put chicken fingers out there and it's on social media, that's worth a lot of money. All good. They're good with that. Now, you go to a high school kid and say, hey, here's $700,000. Just need you to sign a napkin. Deloitte's going to look at that and go, no, that's for recruiting. That has nothing to do with his name, image, and likeness. He doesn't create that kind of marketplace value. This is not going to stand. And so that would appear to kind of settle the wild, wild west to an extent. I'm not sure that Oracle can pay Bryce Underwood what they did at that point in his high school journey in this future world. But that remains to be seen. Now, how does this affect LSU? Twofold, two things with LSU for me. One, the schools get to determine how they allocate this $20 million. And as Ross Dellinger writes on Yahoo Sports, the indication for most schools is that 90+% of that $20 million will be distributed amongst the football and basketball programs, men's basketball programs. And then, based on what each program in your athletic department, where their standing is nationally and in the community, like, you'll allocate those funds XYZ. What I do know from some conversations with people at LSU is that because this has been so long in the making and we've known what this number was for months and months and months, there have already been very sincere conversations over at LSU about how to divvy up this $20 million. And certainly the first program to bang its gavel on the table is going to be the football program. They create the most money. They've got the most players. They've got the most competitive NIL landscape. They've got the most famous players. Like, they're going to take a sizable chunk. But here at LSU, like, women's basketball is going to get some money. I promise you, Kim Mulkey is not going to sit in the background and go, yeah, Brian Kelly, take what you need. Yeah, I know Jay Johnson, y'all are in Omaha. My son played there. Y'all can have some of that. No, Matt, I know you need some players on the men's side, so y'all go handle that. If there's any left over for me, like, I'll take a few bucks. Like, that ain't going to be how Kim Mulkey handles this. She's going to go and say this is a national championship program. I'm a Hall of Fame coach. We've got a big standing on this campus. We sell out the arena for our postseason games. Like, we're getting some money. And Jay Johnson in the baseball program, they're going to command more of that pie than, let's say, the head coach, Paul Maneri at South Carolina, than Butch Thompson at Auburn. I know they were the number 4 national seed still. Like, LSU is going to command more of that on the baseball side. And I believe, this is a guess. I believe men's basketball at LSU will probably get less than a lot of the schools in the SEC. That's a guess, but that is my guess. So you have to, as an athletic department, determine how you're going to allocate those funds. And I think at LSU, football's going to get a ton. They're going to compete with the top of the top. And I do think there's going to be a tougher wrestling match for those funds on the back end after football from the higher profile national championship caliber programs on this campus. And baseball is one of those, and women's basketball is one of those, and men's basketball knows how this game now has to be played, and they did spend some money that was before all this on players, and they're going to try to get their hat in the ring and see what they can get. But it's going to be competitive for that here at LSU. Now, the second piece to this is, how does LSU compete with this on a national level? How does it impact LSU's football team's chances of competing for championships and getting players and keeping them? And I believe this is a positive for LSU. No one is going to compete with Oracle, like for Bryce Underwood. Like, that is a unicorn of a situation. But there are 4 and 5 stars in the high school ranks and the transfer portal ranks every year. And when you just let anybody spend any amount on anybody, LSU is going to have a hard time against Texas. Going to have a hard time against Ohio State. That's just the reality. Like, LSU's got money, and clearly they signed the number 1 portal class, but as far as sustaining that over 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 15 years, like, LSU's going to struggle to keep up with that. But if you rein it in a little bit, and I'm not ruling out under-the-table deals with this now. That's the way things went for decades and decades and decades, and I'm not naive to that. But LSU is going to generate a lot of money. They're going to keep up with the revenue share part of it, and I do believe that there are business people in Baton Rouge who will continue to ante up for fair market NIL deals that go through this clearinghouse. And so maybe the days of the $1.8 million per year NIL deal that is just pay for play are in the rearview mirror, because I don't believe that market value exists for your starting safety. I don't believe that market exists for your wide receiver. Maybe it does, but I'm not an expert on what amount of social media following warrants what amount of money. But I think LSU will compete, certainly will keep up on the revenue share, and then I think that there are enough business people in this state that are willing to work with LSU student athletes to do what is fair. And that's essentially what you've got to do now moving forward. It's not just cut the biggest check you can cut. Now, does LSU struggle to create as big a spotlight as USC in Hollywood? Maybe. But I think that this is a positive for LSU to try to keep things between the rails. LSU's not broke by any stretch of the imagination. But there are some folks in a cut as big a check as you want world that LSU would struggle to keep up with year over year. And maybe some of that's reined in now by this. Again, I'm not naive enough to know it's all going away. Like, you're not going to take away the under the table stuff. But it'll be lessened, I think. And it'll certainly be lessened on the NIL front if deals have to be cleared through a clearinghouse. So I think it's a good thing. As I've always said, I'm positive. I'm pro student athletes earning money based on their name, image, and likeness. I don't know that I'm pro Nico Iamaleava going to the coach's office, demand more cash from the booster base or you're leaving. Like, that's not my favorite thing in the world. But if we can put some regulations on this and then let the student athletes be compensated a little bit for some of the great things they do, I think that's the happy medium. And this, while nothing's perfect, and there will always be people that try to circumvent the rules, I feel like this is a positive thing for the structure of collegiate athletics. That's what I think of it. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.